Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Hangout on Air. We'll just wait a few minutes until all the participants have joined the Hangout on Air. Thank you for joining us today. So while we're waiting, Ahmed, how was your day today?
It's good, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everyone knows that we're in Dublin, but
No.
This is the typical thing in Dublin, like talking about the weather, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, today we've had a lot of sunshine again, so
yeah,
it's
like
good
once every blue moon, I would say.
So as we're seeing some participants join the Hangout right now, it's wonderful to have you here today. We'll be presenting our AdSense guidelines today and also some AdSense optimization tips. My name is Maurits Versteeg. I'm working on the Benelux market, but today we're broadcasting to all across Europe, from MENA to
not only Europe, MENA, actually. Yeah. It's actually, I would say, more of EMEA, more of like different continents, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's
Europe,
it's a very wide
Africa, Asia, actually.
Yeah, no,
which is cool.
Definitely. So it's wonderful to have everyone today. So as I said, my name is Maurits Versteeg. I'll be managing the presentation today along with my good friend here, Ahmed. We've been working together on this presentation for a little bit, so it's great to finally get it up and running. Ahmed, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, first of all, I'm Ahmed Safwat. I'm very glad to be here with you today. I hope that the information that we'll be sharing is useful for you. As my friend Mao said, like we will say Mao, like the nickname.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I'm in Google as well. I've been working in Google for the past 3.5 years. Before that, actually, I was in the advertising business as well. So I guess our background is a bit or less the same, but in different countries. more covering the European markets, and I'm covering more of the Middle Eastern markets.
Yeah.
So I think this will help a lot, actually, in the presentation as well, to share the different dimensions of publishing and advertising.
Yeah, most certainly. So to give you a bit of an indication of what the agenda is for today, first of all, we'll be looking at how to optimize your AdSense account. And in its most basic form, we'll be looking at a few different topics. First of all, I think we were talking about it earlier, and we identified the fact that it's very important for all publishers, especially publishers using the Google products, to have a good, strong fundament. And so we'll be looking at the fundamentals of optimizing your desktop account. That entails, best practices around ad placement, as well as best practices around different ad formats.
And I guess the word fundamental is very key in this session, actually, because there is a plan to have other more advanced or more covering different topics. But for this session specifically, our focus is on the fundamentals, on the backbones, on the main points that will help you, like the basics that are important to have, like, and knowing the main terms and main methodologies.
For sure. Yeah, so as soon as we've covered that, and you've got a good, strong idea about, how does the online advertising world work, as well as how to best position yourself for that, we'll be moving on to a bit of a more challenging concept, which is how to optimize for mobile. And mobile is, of course, something that we've all experienced as being a bit of a challenge in terms of, how to build your traffic, but also how to get high CPMs and high RPMs on your mobile traffic. We've got a surprise for you today. We've got a few mobile ad units that have never been released and will be discussed today for the first time.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Man, you're sharing a lot. I think this is against the policies, but okay.
Yeah, today you've got a lot in store for you. So we're looking forward to having you really walk away today with some very concrete examples of how you can optimize your AdSense account and also how you can make more money from your site. So to get some admin stuff as well, we've got some very capable and certified account managers who are waiting and ready for you to answer your questions in the forum. So if you click on the link down below, you'll be trafficked right towards the AdSense help forum, where both Neely and Irina are ready to help you with your questions. So feel free to any point when you have a question to jump into the forum and to ask your questions there. Also, we have a link towards an ebook that you can download for free. This will have in comparison some of the topics that we've talked about today, and will help you further to further optimize your AdSense account. So, Ahmed, are you ready?
More than ready.
Fantastic. So let's get to it. So this is, of course, the introduction slide, and this is it. How are we going to make more money from your site? That's, I think, the one thing everybody wants to know, right?
I think this is, yeah, definitely. I'm personally, I'm very interested to know more.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, actually, I was thinking of buying a new watch, so I need some help on this.
Everybody needs some new shoes, right? It's the new year. So, you know, before we get into it, I think it's important to have a bit of disclaimer. Do you want to walk them through this?
Yeah, of course. Like it's actually all what we're sharing is more of our role here is to help you on a consultational level, and all what is shared is more. It's definitely it's not guaranteed, but we will do our best. I would claim that we are good at this, right?
Yeah.
You were mentioning that we're experts, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go to that level. Hopefully we are, but
yeah.
our role is to help you on getting the monetization, getting more revenue, but definitely it's not guaranteed. Individual results may vary, and please, like, I'm sure that you have your optimization specialists, and that can help you even on focusing on these specific points towards your site specifically.
Sure, great. So as we get into it now, I think the first part of the presentation is about websites and ad best practices. So we're going through over the fundamentals of, okay, how do we increase user experience? How do we increase ad placements? You know, what is the best way to get coverage up there? Ad sizes, as we just talked about, and also most importantly, how to increase competition on your sites. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? You want advertisers begging to be on your site and to have the highest RPM because of that.
Definitely.
So, you know, before we get into that, I think there's a very important point to discuss that is kind of the backbone to all of these things, and that's active viewability. Now, to give you a bit of an insight into what this metric means and how, you know, this has developed over the course of the past few years in the market from an industry standpoint, the AIB, ANA, and 4As joined forces in about 2011, and they had a very clear mission to turn measurable impressions from viewable impressions. So the difference between these two, in a sense, is that back in the day, so back in 2011, this has of course changed a lot. Measurable impressions were the only thing that we can measure. So even if an ad were to be loaded into your site, never seen, it would still be measured as an impression. And you can imagine from an advertiser perspective that this is not very fair, right? I'm paying for impressions that are never seen and are never monetized, and I don't get anything out of. So the AIB, ANA, and 4As, sorry, IAB, I keep switching those around, have taken a step towards, you know, measuring this and making sure that active viewability is a metric that really focuses on viewable ads. And this is something we'll focus on throughout the course of the discussion.
Yeah, I think this is the new trendy metric, and it's actually, it makes sense to all stakeholders. It makes sense to the users, it makes sense to the advertisers, and definitely for the publishers. So I think this is something that we need to further explain and take the audience through.
Sure. So you know, how can we look at this? So first of all, the viewability metric is not only something that we take into consideration when looking at, okay, how effective are your ads in terms of how are you placing those in front of your users, but also improving user experience. So we'll be looking at some options further, but of course a responsive site is something that's very important. You know, make content on your site easy to find and link ads to those, because the technology that goes behind trafficking ads is extremely advanced, probably one of the more advanced technologies on this dear planet Earth. You know, so when you make ads more viewable, we can easily assume that people will click on them faster. This also includes, you know, make your user experience more attractive, make your site faster, build organic search, test with different colors. There's a lot that you can do around increasing the experience of your users, because not only is this important to you, but this is important to us as Google to have the best user experience online.
And again, I want to stress on the word fundamentals, because these are stuff that you have to, it's like Google cannot help. This is like your base, like your website. You have to find the best user experience. You have to find the best way to engage your users to keep on the site as long as possible.
So I mean, these are all kind of the fundamentals, right? And we're going to race through them a little bit until we can get to the nitty gritty, and we can keep you happy with a few of those interesting ad units that we've got coming up. So furthermore, we've got also improving your ad placements. I've noticed quite a few publishers, what they do is they place banners above the menu. You know, and if I look at what we can do in order to improve on this, by removing an ad placement above a menu to in-screen or below the menu can increase CTR by about 35%.
Wow.
So, I mean, do you want to increase your CTR by 35%?
Definitely, of course.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, if I had a site, I'd love to do that too. You know,
and actually, I think it's a very simple and easy thing that will increase the CTR dramatically, right?
Completely.
Like,
and, you know, this is just one example. I think that the most important thing here is to consider where are your users looking at your content and placing ads strategically next to your content where eyeballs will be, because if there's an eyeball, there could be a click, which means more money for you and your site.
I think it has a bit of logic and a bit of like, this is psychology as well. Like these studies are partially has some psychological research as well, like the what's easy for the users to see and where is the points of attraction for users.
Yeah. Most certainly. And also consider things like above the fold, below the fold. You know, very simple optimizations that can lead to a lot of money in the long term. So if we move on to the next, coverage, I think that this is something that is so easily optimizable and can have such a big impact. I noticed so many publishers that use just 2 ad units on a page or 1 ad unit. You know, by just introducing 2 or even 1 more ad unit, can maximize the amount of impact that you have on your site. And it's such an easy optimization that can be done so quickly, you know, and can have such a big impact. Of course, you know, I think it comes down to user experience and making sure that so we're not saying bombard your sites full of ads, but strategically placed ads and using the maximum ability of your site can have such a profound impact. So if we move on, now this is, of course, you know, the nitty-gritty of it all. I think this is where the most amount of money can be made.
Yes. This is very interesting, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the main things that we see come by here is bigger ad units. You know, because if we look at active viewability and we look at, okay, where can ads be seen, the metric that is used to measure active viewability is an ad seen 50% the ad for more than 1 second. So that's the metric. If you have a bigger ad and you have more content on the page, you can also assume that these ads will traffic, you know, be seen more effectively and be better in screen.
I think the message out of this is like, it's a clear go big and bold. Like the bigger, the better, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and also consider that, you know, we have responsive ad units. So smaller ads can fit into larger ad units. And which can increase traffic and can increase competition. So when we consider, for example, if we head back to the slide quickly, if we can consider the 336 times 280, within that ad unit will fit the 300 by 250. So by just opting into that slight increase in size, we can make sure that we increase the competition on that ad unit, and we can make sure that we increase the RPM. So consider, you know, what sizes are you using now. For example, the 320 by 100 can easily be grown to the 300 by 250, or the 300 by 250 can easily be grown to the 336 by 280, because you're increasing the amount of competition on those ad units, and you're making sure that those ads are being, the competition on those ads is being maximized. So definitely very important things to consider with regards to maximizing your RPM there. You know, so all in all, allowing advertisers to compete.
Definitely.
Because it's a big room, there's a lot of advertisers, and you want to enable that room to be full of so many advertisers that they're all going to bid. So, you know, looking at this, increasing your ad size, increasing your placements, making sure the active viewability is right, but also most importantly, removing blockages. Take a critical look at your blockages and make sure that, you know, you don't have any blocks on there that you might have put there a year ago or even a couple of years ago and have never looked around again. Because those are things that, you know, annoying ads back in the day might not be annoying today, or those advertisers might have dropped out. You can easily unblock those categories and start testing to see what kind of impact that has on your RPM. Have you blocked any annoying advertisers recently?
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to discuss this, to be honest, because it's actually it's maybe I could say that it could be like MENA specific, like some requirements for MENA that like you have to do some blockings.
Yeah.
But let's try to minimize this kind of
yeah,
blocking.
for sure.
Yeah.
Or block on advertiser URL specific, right? I mean, if we don't have to, if you have one annoying Tinder dating site or something like that, right? No disrespect to Tinder. It's a wonderful platform, but
Are you a user?
I have to say sometimes, maybe on the toilet, let's say.
Okay, interesting.
So if we move to the next category.
Before going to the next
Yes,
category,
sorry.
actually, I think we got some questions.
Yeah.
I skimmed through them, actually. Some of them will be covered eventually, like the mobile parts. The mobile parts will be covered. I got some questions specifically for Saudi Arabia and the Persian market.
Yeah.
But I guess we can take these questions in specific offline. I will get in contact with you and discuss it further. Apart from that, there's the RPM on mobile traffic. I think it will be covered, the responsive ads.
For sure.
What else? That's it, I guess.
Yeah, so feel free to keep posting questions. We'll have the experts online will be there to answer your questions. So feel free to keep posting questions, and we'll be there to support you. So coming back to the presentation, there we have new formats that are available. So we'll be going over these. So we are going to be talking about matched content. Now, this is not directly a monetizable ad unit. There are betas that are coming out, so keep up to date on that. But essentially, what matched content is, it's an ad unit that will be able to traffic your users to different parts of your site. So imagine if you're a social site user, or you have different sites that have the same category along the way. You can traffic your users from your own site to your different sites, or keep using the same content in order to increase the number of page views on your site.
Wow, interesting.
It's a pretty handy function, I have to say. I think, especially for social sites, considering the impact that you can have there, that seems great. So, if we move on to the next one, this one I really like, because again, these are not exactly like ads, targeting your sites, but different ways of looking at how do you monetize your site. The Google customer survey.
Yeah.
It's great, no?
Yeah, personally, to be honest, I'm sorry to get a bit personal and sharing some of my previous background, but
no, feel free.
I was, before joining Google, actually, I was part of the brand management in an FMCG's company. And we were using these surveys, like doing like offline surveys, doing many types of surveys, like to get to know more about the consumers and the users. And I think having these type of digital surveys, it helps a lot. It's less costly. So having them on your site, it's definitely something that all advertisers would be seeking.
Yeah, for sure. So if we move on to the next one, that's link units. Now, these are quite interesting because they connect straight away to the intent of a user. What they do is, when you have a search function within what they do is they're ads that are directed towards the context of the user. So if you have particular context to the site, or you have concepts that are discussed within your own content, these ads will be targeted based on the keywords in that content. And you can imagine, the effectiveness of Google as a platform and the technology that goes behind finding out what is the intent of a user. This is great to target that. Because if you've got a site, for example, talking about the newest Nike Airs or the newest shoes, and have ads targeting that with the search function of Google, you can imagine what the click rates are on that, and how easily people will be able to find the content that they're looking for by clicking on an ad. And this, of course, will lead to a higher RPM and higher revenues for yourself.
But what do you mean? Like, you mean like you'll have a Google search in the website, or what? Like,
no. So this is just an ad unit that has links within the ad.
Okay.
So they're the text links, and you can click on the link and be redirected to the ad of the page of the advertiser.
Interesting.
So it doesn't necessarily have to connect with a search function. The search function doesn't need to be there, but you are targeting the interest-based users of that user.
And this is why would people use this type? Like, is it for the smaller spaces, like ad spaces?
Exactly. So if you have any smaller spaces available on the site, you don't necessarily need to put a 336 times 300. or anything like that, you can just put the smaller ad unit. And the cool thing about these ones is that they don't actually add to your 3 count. You can have, for example, 3 ads targeting the page and then 3 link units. If you have some space left over, you can still put them in there. So feel free to start experimenting with these sort of things. That'd be a great way to do it. So now I think we're getting to the nitty-gritty of it, right?
Cool.
Now
Let's
we're getting
do
to the good parts. I think that this is definitely where we can make some cool steps, and especially one of the more challenging parts of the whole ecosystem, mobile.
Yeah, I guess there was this saying that mobile is the future, but I think now mobile is the past. I would say, like it's no longer the future. It's beyond what we're going through. So
yeah.
I think there will be something more advanced or coming up more than mobile soon.
Yeah.
But for now, I think mobile is a must. And I'm not saying this from like my role or from my experience, but I'm saying it from a user point of view. Like I'm sure everyone in the Hangout will relate to this. Like we no longer use our laptops, desktops. It's always we're always on the go.
Yeah.
We always use the phone, the smartphones on everything.
Yeah. And if I look at my own behavior, I'm using my mobile much more. In last year, in 2014, and the year previous, of course, 2015 now already, time's flying, we saw that mobile queries had surpassed desktop queries. And this is, of course, a very interesting point. The fact that everybody across the board is seeing lower RPMs and lower CPMs has a lot to do with the fact that mobile has become such an important process and such an important part of people's research process. And when Ahmed and I were working on the buy side, or at least with advertisers, this, in my personal opinion, was one of the most challenging things to discuss with advertisers. And this is something we want to get into. If I look at, for example, this next slide, and we look at the statistics, 24% of user time is spent on mobile, but only 8% of advertiser budgets are spent on mobile. Now, this is, of course, a bit of a crazy statistic. Why wouldn't it be 24% time is spent on mobile and 24% of the budget is spent on mobile? This is closely got to do with the fact that the technology behind measuring conversions across mobile to desktop is simply not there. Now, if you look at your own search process, if you're going to buy some new shoes, I personally would look at, what are the new shoes I like? I'd be sitting on the train. I mean, I'd be sitting there with Ahmed and he could tell me one thing and I'd be on my phone. And, we've all got friends like that do that.
Especially with Tinder, you're...
I mean, yeah, no, I don't actually like. Okay. I'm sitting there, I research my shoes to go on my next date, and see how that's gonna go. But no, I mean, you do your research on your phone, right? And then when you go ahead and you go and buy something, and you're gonna spend €100 on your shoes, you go and grab your desktop and you buy them, right? And I think that this is the challenge that a lot of advertisers are facing: is that cross-device conversions aren't measured. So they see 20 clicks on mobile, 0 conversions. 5 clicks on desktop, 5 conversions. Let's see, hypothetically speaking, right? For them, it's very challenging to be able to identify where am I going to spend my money. And this is why no money is going to mobile. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If we look at the way that people are orientating on mobile and the way that smart advertisers are noticing it right now, is that mobile is used as an orientation device. And that's why they're going to be targeting bigger ad units on mobile. They're going to be targeting bigger placements because they can convey their messages much more effectively on a bigger ad unit than they can on a tiny 320 by 50, let's say, right? So I think that's what it's all about, right? It's being able to target bigger ad units and branding advertisers.
True.
So looking at that, the see, think, do model. See and think is an orientation process. Do is a desktop process. So when we look at that, think about mobile like an advertiser. If you were going to spend your hard-earned cash on advertising budgets, you're obviously going to do it on something that works. Desktop works. Mobile doesn't convert yet, but it does for branding advertisers. So best position yourself for branding advertisers and look at these bigger ad units that we're going to be talking about. So before we get into all of that, some of these cool ad units that we've got going, we're going to look at, okay, how do we build for a mobile-friendly site? Because essentially, it comes back to, how do we make sure that the user behavior is best on mobile?
Exactly.
Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I guess it's the normal progression or evolution of things. Like whatever we do on on the website itself, it has to even be better and bolder and more engaging on the on the mobile.
Yeah, for sure.
Either it's a mobile web or an app, or like on a more developed point of view.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy to see how the differences are, right? Like if we look at, for example, when we get to the more basic stuff, like, how do you, but the more fundamental stuff we were talking about earlier, how to make your site easy for your users. Think about responsive sites. Think about how am I going to convey the content that I've built over all these years on desktop, and how am I going to put that on a mobile site. Testing your sites is, of course, one of the most essential things that you can do. Making it fast, because we see that there's such a high bounce rate on slow mobile sites.
Yeah.
People have such a high expectancy because they're on the go, because they're moving. They need to have that very quick and very dynamic ability.
Especially with the variation of the internet speed across the different markets. Actually, it has to be as easy, as fast, as like easy access and like I don't know the word, like
the
fast download.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and these are essential things. If we look at how many people are likely to come back to a well optimized mobile site, 74% is willing to come back to a well optimized mobile site.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty staggering statistic. Actually.
Definitely.
That means that 26% is willing to drop off and never come back to a site that hasn't been mobile optimized.
I would say I'm one of these.
I would agree. I mean, you can't do very much for that. So, if we continue on to see, okay, building a site for multi-screen users, and trying to stone towards this cross-device conversion type idea. How do we optimize for different screens? How do we optimize for different users? When we look at the different options that people have, and here they are. The different screen options, I think they all look pretty great. Right?
Yeah, I like this slide.
Yeah. So essentially, we've got 3 coming up there. So we've got the separate mobile sites. We have a responsive web design, and we have the dynamic serving.
Cool.
Now this is all stuff that's going to be integrated within the ebook that you can download on the site as well. So feel free to download that, and you can get into that more effectively. But essentially, if you look at the pros and cons, the separate mobile site, it's fully customized, easy to make changes. The cons are, that you've got to have multiple URLs. Content disparity is, of course, one that's difficult to build for. When we look at that responsive mobile design, it's a fully customizable device experience. Of course, you've got the content parity and no redirection. So, we can go through the steps, but I think essentially that these are very personal choices.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you need to make your decisions about how do you want to convey your message to your user.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that those are discussions that we can, of course, go into. And if we look at, how to measure these sort of things and how to measure the ability of your site to be able to be trafficked on mobile, I think a good thing is to look at the Google Page Speed Insights. Have you tried this tool before?
Yes. Yeah.
I can imagine in MENA this is an important aspect.
Yeah,
people are mobile
exactly.
crazy there, right?
Definitely. Yeah. One of the highest penetration, actually.
Yeah, no, I've seen the statistics are mad. So if you've not used this tool before, we definitely suggest to do it. All you need to do is go to google.com, you type in Google Page Speed Insights, and here you have this developer tool that allows you to simply put in your URL, click Analyze, and you'll get very concrete examples and very concrete tips as to how you can better optimize for a mobile site. So things like, changing certain plugins, or, passing particular rules, best practices around putting content in particular places. Definitely one of the more powerful developer tools that we have available, and something that everybody can use. You don't need to be a developer to start to implement this sort of stuff. You can take a look and see, okay, how is your site doing? And we can help you to optimize on that. So it will improve page speed, it will improve latency, and it will keep your users happy. Those 75% of users will be happy to come back to your site again. So now this is my favorite part of the presentation. It's the maximizing for every mobile opportunity. Basically, the new ad formats that we were talking about before, we're going to go into right now. So
yeah, now I know why you're talking about why it's your favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because this is one of the most challenging things.
Yeah,
and I think that here we can have the biggest impact. So, when we look at the difference between the RPM of the 320 by 100 or the 320 by 50
Mm-hmm.
versus the RPM of the 300 by 250,
Mm-hmm.
it's about 87% higher.
Wow.
And CTR is about 200% higher.
Brilliant.
So, these are simple changes, simple optimizations that can have a huge impact on your site straight away. Now, the idea behind this, of course, is that the 300 by 250, or the 320 by 100 and the 320 by 50 will fit within the 300 by 250.
Yeah.
Now, take it a step further. Introduce the 336 by 280. That's a mobile ad unit that can be trafficked there as well,
Mm-hmm.
and can traffic all these parts.
Mm-hmm.
The CTR and the CPM for both, or the RPM for both of these ad units are going to be through the roof, and I think it's definitely something that you can traffic on that. Do note though that the 300 by 250 is an ad unit that cannot be placed above the fold.
I think we should put the slide. I'm sure that people will be interested in checking the slide more than seeing our faces.
For sure,
actually, especially that there are a couple of questions that came concerning this point. So
okay, yeah,
I think people are very interested in this.
Yeah. So, I think what's essential here is that a lot of people, and we see this across the board with a lot of our publishers, from MENA to the Baltics to Adriatics to Benelux to Nordics, across the board, everybody's looking at these type of optimizations. And what we see a lot of the times is that the 320 by 100 or the 320 by 50 is something that's usually placed above the fold, top of view, but doesn't function very well, because what people do instantly is they come onto your mobile sites,
Mm-hmm.
and you and I have both done it.
Yeah.
They scroll down instantly, right?
Definitely, yeah.
And then the ad unit is gone. Your active viewability might have gone up because it's been in screen for 1 second. But
what's active viewability again?
It's the 50% of the ad units being in spot for more than 1 second.
Wow.
So keep this in mind, right? Because
yeah.
This is important. So what you can do is, instead of having that top unit, switch it to the size at the left, or you can keep it at the top and then put the 300 by 250 on the bottom. What's important here with the left view is that you've got a peak view of above the fold, and that's maximizing the user experience, because people know an ad is coming, they can be prepared for it, and they can click on it if they'd like to see more information about that. And also look at making that social sharing available. Mm-hmm. Now, also consider here, that the 336 times 280 is an important ad you start using, but this is also one that's important for desktop. Here we've got the 300 by 250, which works very well. So definitely start working with this ad unit and start experimenting it, because 87% higher CPM and 200% higher CTR.
Yeah,
one of the most highly functioning ad units that we've got out there.
I hope this slide answers some of the questions that were asked already. If you have further inquiries, please add it to the questions, and we will definitely answer you on it.
Yeah. So if we've got any important questions, we can put them to the top, mm-hmm. and we can make sure that those are answered adequately. But basically, we've got all the support there to support you further. Mm-hmm. Do feel free to continue asking questions, because these are important topics that we're talking about, of course, so you can get the most out of it. Now, we've got the surprise we were talking about earlier, the new ad unit that's just been released by policy and is now enabled for mobile. I love the drum roll. Here it comes. Is the 300 by 600. Now, this is a brand-focused ad unit, but what we were talking about with the brand-focused advertisers, we can keep this one on there. We can keep it targeted to these bigger ad units. So if we take a look at it, the most important thing here is that we're targeting these branding advertisers, right? They can have all the ability to target their bigger messages on here. They can have a lot of space to be able to talk about what they want. And also for your users, right? This is what they want to look at. They want to look at good content, good branding content, and want to be conveyed by that.
This is a huge unit, right?
It is. And that's why it's very important, and this is also something that's necessary to talk about, is that this ad unit can only be placed at the bottom of a page.
Yeah, definitely, right? Yeah.
And consider, the search process, because when you're searching a site and I'm searching a site and I'm looking for information and we're looking for, those new shoes, and I'm looking for content that I haven't found yet, and I get to the bottom of the page and I haven't found what I'm looking for, I'm ready to leave the site.
True.
Right? And whether I click on the X at the top of the site or I click on an ad, makes no difference to me as a user.
Exactly.
But to you as a publisher, this makes the biggest piece of difference, right? Because I could click on that ad and still be gone, and you can make money from that click instead of the click on the X at the top of the screen.
True.
So I want to start using it.
Good.
Yeah. love the affirmation. So okay, so here we've got the responsive ad units. You know, this is also another one that's super important.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of publishers that are using this one?
Not really, but
Okay.
I think that we should like promote it more and share it with the publishers, because I think it's very interesting and very useful. Actually.
Yeah, for sure. Because if we go back to the slide there, what it actually does is it takes the format of the page and redirects the type of ad unit that would be able to fit in that ad unit. So depending on whether someone is switching from screen sizes, you know, from horizontal to vertical, or switching between tablets and desktop, the ad unit, you don't have to put in 100 different ad units that'll fit to that certain page. It's a very easy to implement ad unit that'll optimize for each different screen size.
This is brilliant, actually. It's from a publisher point of view, I guess it's also, apart from the revenue stream and the revenue generated from this, I guess it's easy for them to build.
Yeah.
Instead of building separate sets of units across different devices, it's one ad unit that fits all in that sense.
No, and so it's easy to implement, and you know, just start experimenting. You can find with it. You can find it on your AdSense page, where you go to ad units and you find the responsive ad unit. You can click it there and be sure to implement it on that site. So that was all we had for the mobile piece. So just to reiterate, you know, I think a few important points came up here. First of all, optimize for mobile sites, you know, and optimize for responsive sites that are easy to use, easy to navigate and fast, so that we have the 74% of people that would essentially drop from your site if it wasn't optimized to keep coming back. Secondly, we have bigger ad units, you know, the 300 by 250, 87% higher CTR or CPM, 200% higher CTR. Great performance there. And then we have the new ad unit that's just been relaunched, the 300 by 600. You can start experimenting with that at the bottom of a page. Also, just to make sure that policy isn't going to jump on my back, the 300 by 250 can only be below the fold, cannot be above the fold. So keep these things in mind. You know, do make sure that we keep trafficking things that is best for your users and best for the experience on your site. So now, you know, we've finished that. We still have a few extra points that we can get into with you.
Actually, I see that you have the last slide where you have other ways to earn money from your site. What do you mean by other ways? Are there any other ways apart from what we already shared?
I'm glad you asked.
I think that we've shared a lot already.
I know there are other ways to make money from your site. I think essentially here, you know, if we look at the different tools that we have, AdSense for Search is one of the most fundamental and high revenue creating tools that we have. You know, when I worked on the buy side, I think the most essential thing that came by between display advertising and search advertising is that search advertising targets intent. And this is something that is very important to advertisers, because if you can know that someone is typing in buy new shoes in Dublin, I want to be there with my ad instead of it being a site about shoes and someone is just in an orientation process. You know, so consider that. I think the most essential thing that we're trying to get to all the time is start thinking like an advertiser.
Yeah.
Right? And start trafficking your ads and trafficking your content to be able to target the most high paid advertisers and where they want to be, because that's going to make the most money from your site. So search, AdSense for Search allows you to be able to traffic, or to allows you to put a custom search function within your site that connects to the Google search engine and allows Google to traffic search ads on your site when people are searching on the custom search engine on your site.
Wow. Yeah. It's can you repeat it again? Because
Jeez,
I think it's
I'm not so sure if I can do that again.
I think it's cool.
I think I said on your site a few times too many there, but we're just making sure.
You're just wrapping it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a great functionality. You know, look at how you can implement that, because I think it makes a lot of sense for everybody to start really using this technology, because we have a lot of smart people working on this, and you know, they're building incredible tools. I'm a big fan of games. You know, that's one of my favorite part-time. So AdSense for games, if you're a gaming publisher or a gaming developer, this is the tool for you. You know, we've got so many different formats now, from standard to TrueView to full slot. Standard being, you know, that it's a non-skippable video ad, pre, mid, or post roll. TrueView is identical to what you see on YouTube, where people have the ability to click through after 5 seconds of seeing an ad. After 30 seconds of seeing that ad, then you get paid. So that's something, you know, to measure engagement, to make sure that that's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we have the full slots, the text media and rich media ads that can be put in full content of your ads. So those are definitely things that I would suggest to start experimenting with, you know, and then see if you can use that. And moving on, it's kind of the same but different. AdSense for video. You know, this is the same type of concept. We've got the video ads that are linear, non-linear ads. You know, the difference between that is that the standard is TrueView. Now, the same concept applies to what we saw for gaming. Then, of course, we've got the overlay ads, which is the text, image, or rich media creatives that will appear at the bottom of a video. You can see them when you're in YouTube. You know, that they're bottom of the site, very customized, very targeted inventory there. And finally, we've got the full slots layover that comes over the video when you're trafficking it. So if you're using video, or if you're trafficking video on your site, you've got a fun social site that's using a lot of video, make sure that these are the ad units that you can also start to use there, right? So great stuff. So we've come to the end of the presentation. You know, I've got a couple of minutes left. I mean, always continue to, you know, to ask questions.
Yeah,
definitely there, people to have you, you know, help you there. So yeah, if there's any other points that are coming up there, we do have an appendix just to reiterate a few points. So first of all, on desktop, switching to bigger ad units, you know, allowing text and image ads to make sure that you can traffic as much competition on that site. Limit category blocks in ad networks. Moving ads above the fold, moving ads below the header, place ads near most viewed content, monetize with different products, and improve the user experience on your site. So these are the fundamentals, as well as some new formats that are very interesting. Mobile, you know, get those bigger ad units in there. The 300 by 250 is, of course, one that has huge impact. The 300 by 600 is a new ad unit that we're introducing. So I'd suggest to start to experiment with that. Then we've got the responsive ad units that'll make it easier for you to implement, I mean, easy for you to monetize. And finally, we got the specific ad units that have only been you know, whitelisted for particular publishers. So make sure that you take a look within your ads. If you've been whitelisted, you can find them there. If not, then, you know, these things will be rolled out in the coming time. So feel free to look out for that. Now, so these are our final points. You know,
yeah.
I think essentially, you know, that's the most important checklist of everything. Now, are there any other points that you want to bring across?
I think
to the questions.
I think it's mostly covered. I'm just going through the questions. Some already are answered by Nile and Irina.
Yeah.
Let me check.
Okay, so before we leave, I think that there's a few things that we can, of course, that I can give to you as well. Download the ebook, because there's a lot of information in there that we might not have covered today. And furthermore, there's something very important that I want to discuss as well, is the ability to be able to maximize revenue from your site beyond AdSense. We have also another product outside of AdSense called DoubleClick for Publishers, which enables users to be able to use an ad server. Now, this is one of the most sophisticated ad servers in the market. And what it essentially does is, if you have other networks targeting your site that are now hard-coded, you can replace those codes with dynamic tags or dynamic DFP tags. What this essentially allows you to do, for that one ad unit that is now trafficked by maybe another network or by direct advertisers, you can put into competition with AdSense. So you can make sure that every advertiser or buyer that is willing to pay for that ad is going to pay the highest price, whether they're going to be direct sales, other networks, or AdSense. You can put that competition on your site to improve the amount of money that you make from your site. We've set up another further training that focuses on using DFP as an ad server. Now, feel free to go to the further trainings tab and click on the attending list for that one. If you've already got an ad server, there's a lot of optimizations, you know, especially with DFP, there's a lot of optimization tips and techniques that we can provide to you around creating the most amount of competition on your site. You know, DFP isn't a hugely complicated tool, but there are a lot of functionalities there, and we'd love to walk you through it to be able to maximize revenue from that. So if you've already got an ad server, feel free to click on that link, attend that seminar, which we'll be doing the first week of March, and we look forward to providing you with more information there. Fantastic. So those are the points that we've got for you today. We'll be keeping the Hangout on the Q&A session available for the next 45 minutes to 30 minutes or so. So feel free to continue the discussion. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, we want to create a feeling of community. So if you can answer someone else's question, or you can jump in and answer someone's question and start a discussion, or maybe someone's using a similar site as yours, you know, feel free to get that community feel going, because at the end of the day, this is something that we all need to work on. The competition amongst websites is minimal. You know, everyone's got their own users, and you know, we want to be able to make sure that each website maximizes the revenue that they get from their sites. So, you know, if you can help out a fellow publisher and make sure that these ad units are working well, make sure that their web design is working well, we're all working towards creating more demand from advertisers. So better ads will be targeted more towards advertisers, and the better it works for advertisers, the better it will work for all of us. So, you know, that's my 2 cents there. Yeah. So yeah, we'd like to thank you for your attendance, and we hope to see you again in the first week of March. If you have any questions, feel free to jump on the Q&A, and also download the ebook, and we'll be sure to see you soon, and to continue these sessions. So look out for these sessions in the future. We'll be doing a lot more of these.
I guess we're planning 2 more topics, like if you want to share a bit on them.
Yeah, so those are the 2 I just discussed. There was the DFP Hangout on Air it's a double click for publishers, as well as for people that are already using DFP, to target them and to make sure that they can optimize the double click for publishing accounts.
Looking forward to seeing you then.
Great. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Okay.